Cheers, everyone. Dave Brown here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. So, Donald Trump, as we all know, is a very divisive figure. There are people on the left who act like he is Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, all rolled into one. And they fear that if he is elected again in 2024, our democracy is going to come to an end. Very melodramatic, but that is the left. And then we have people on the right, and some of these people are Trump supporters, some are not. They say that during Trump's first term, he did not get enough done, and in fact, he allowed the swamp into his administration, which is true. Now, how do we have both of these viewpoints existing together? On one hand, he's a dictator. On the other hand, he was someone who wasn't tough enough and allowed the establishment to weasel into his administration and thwart the MAGA agenda. How can these two positions exist at the same time? Well, I want to break down each of them and push back on both of these sides. I think neither side is right here, and I want to explain why. But first, let's start with the idea that Trump is a dictator, because right now we have articles coming out from some of the usual suspects saying that Trump in 2025, if he were to be reelected, would be a dictator. And there's this guy, Michael Beschloss, he appears on MSNBC. His whole career is about hating Donald Trump. And he is saying Donald Trump, a second Trump administration, would be a presidential dictator. And he's basing this in part off of a New York Times article that came out recently saying how Trump and his allies forged plans to increase presidential powers in 2025. Now, here's the problem. They are running the same script they ran back in 2016. These are all headlines from 2016 and 2015. Donald Trump will protect you. Some fear he's running to be a dictator. Is Trump a dictator in the making? Donald Trump's tactics are disturbingly similar to those of actual dictators. Trump shows his inner dictator. George Soros, Trump a would-be dictator. Will Trump be a Reagan, a rogue, or a dictator? And finally here, Jorge Ramos tells Megyn Kelly Trump a would-be dictator with dangerous ideas. This is all back from 2015, 2016. Donald Trump is a dictator, and they said Donald Trump, if he gets into power, he will throw his opponents in jail. Oh my God, scary stuff. Now, let me ask you this question. He was president for 4 years. Tell me right now, who were the people that he threw in jail? Go ahead, tell me. Anyone? Huh? Well, the answer is zero. He threw 0 people in jail. None. He spied on who? Can anyone tell me? Who did he illegally spy on? Which journalist? Okay. So, on this claim that Trump was going to be a dictator, is there any evidence to suggest that Donald Trump was in fact a dictator during his first 4 years in office? Absolutely none. In fact, after he was elected, he gave a speech where Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were in the crowd, and he actually thanked them and actually preached unity. R&D, Republican, Democrat, we're all the same. We all want prosperity for our country. And in fact, there were Trump supporters who were actually annoyed by this because all the locker up stuff. But Trump, when he actually got into power, didn't lock up his political opponents and actually thanked Hillary Clinton. And here's the short clip.
There is something that I wanted to say, because I was very honored, very, very honored, when I heard that President Bill Clinton and Secretary Hillary Clinton was coming today. And I think it's appropriate to say, and I'd like you to stand up. I'd like you to stand up.
his main political opponent, stand up and applaud them and thank them. Dictator Trump. Man, what a dictator. Ugh. Clapping himself there for Hillary and Bill Clinton.
And honestly, there's nothing more I can say because I have a lot of respect for those two people. So thank you all for being here. And we're going to have 4 great years, hopefully, of peace and prosperity. We'll be working very, very
Peace
hard.
and prosperity.
The cabinet's lined up and ready. I know eventually Chuck's going to approve them.
And there's Chuck Schumer, the Democrat.
I really believe that. And we're all dealing together. We all want the same thing. We're all good people. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, doesn't make any difference. We're going to get along.
So there's Trump saying we're going to get along, Republican and Democrat. Thank you, Hillary and Bill. Where is the dictator here? Can anyone tell me? Or is this all a creation of the left and people with mental problems, saying that Trump was going to be a dictator? And again, 4 years in office, no one thrown in jail. So if he was a dictator, he's really bad at it. Now, on the other hand, who on Trump's side was thrown in jail? So Trump threw no one in jail, but how many people on his side, his supporters, were thrown in jail? Let's see. Well, we have Paul Manafort. He was thrown in jail. We have Michael Flynn, his national security advisor. He was charged and arrested. Then we have George Papadopoulos. He was charged and arrested. Then we had Roger Stone, his friend, arrested by the FBI after the FBI tipped off CNN so they could embarrass him. They used a SWAT team to arrest a guy who's, 70 years old at his house in Florida, like he was a threat. So they went out of their way to make a statement and embarrass Roger Stone on national television. Who else? They arrested Pierre Navarro, his aide, over to January 6th because, Pierre Navarro wanted to negotiate with the government about him testifying in front of the committee because President Trump had declared like, hey, I have executive authority here. He was in my cabinet. He can't talk for me or talk in front of the committee without my approval. So they're negotiating, and they arrested Pierre Navarro at National Airport in D.C., Reagan National, and handcuffed him and handcuffed his feet together. That's what they did to Pierre Navarro, one of Trump's aides. Who else? Alan Weisselberg, I think I got that wrong. He was the Trump CFO. He got arrested for not declaring or on his taxes, use of an apartment in a car. Something really ticky-tack that pretty much anybody who makes good money in New York can be guilty of. So they went after his CFO. Then they went after Michael Cohen, his personal lawyer. He got thrown in jail. So but the point I'm making here is Trump threw nobody in jail, and we have all this long list of people that got thrown in jail on the Trump side. Now, of course, we all know the left is going to say, well, they were terrible people, and he's a criminal, and they all did. Oh, okay, sure. Versus Hunter Biden smoking crack while driving 150 miles an hour through the desert and banging all his prostitutes. Okay, that's cool, and it's dealing with Ukraine. Okay, we all know the deal here. There's two standards, one for Trump and his side, one for Biden and his people. So if you look at that here, and you say to yourself, how could Trump be the dictator and Biden not be? What's your evidence? Show it to me. Mean tweets? He hurt your feelings? It's preposterous. And so I find this whole narrative again showing back up here in 2023 that if Trump gets reelected, he's going to be a dictator. Same old script, and people again are falling for it, and it just blows my mind. Now let's go to this idea that Trump capitulated to the swamp and that he did not get enough done. Well, let me preface this by saying he did make mistakes, and there were people he brought into his cabinet that was absolutely ridiculous. Bolton, for example, that guy is toxic. How that guy was selected by Trump, I have no clue. That was a massive mistake. And there were several others. So I will say at the beginning here that Trump did make mistakes, and I think he recognizes that. And if he were to be reelected, hopefully he would not make these same mistakes again. But here is the issue I always bring up. How do you fill your cabinet if you're Donald Trump? Well, here's the problem. Everybody, for the most part, and there's a few exceptions, have to go through the Senate. And the Senate is controlled by Mitch McConnell, and the Republican majority during Trump's time in office from 2016 or 2017 to 2020, the majority in the Senate was either one, two, or three people. Actually, yeah, three people after 2018. It was a very slim majority. So anybody Trump nominated, Mitch McConnell could torpedo if he wanted to. And that is, think about it, you got your Secretary of State, your Defense Secretary, UN Ambassador. There's so many positions that need Senate confirmation and has to get past Mitch McConnell. So I'm sure what happens is Trump goes, I want to nominate this guy, and it gets back to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell calls the White House, Mr. President, I've got to tell you, if you nominate this guy, I'm just not sure we can get him through. We have problems here. And Trump is given the warning beforehand, before he says it publicly, like, yeah, this guy's a no-go. And so anybody Trump picks that needs Senate confirmation is, in effect, actually selected by Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell can't select the person outright, but he controls who actually populates the Trump cabinet. And this is the upside and downside of our republic. On one hand, there's these checks and balances that don't allow a president to just run wild. And that's a good thing about a republic. On the other hand, it makes change very slow. Something Barack Obama mentioned back in 2009 when he said, I came to office and I realized, wow, you can't make a lot of things happen really fast. It's really, really small incremental change because the government is so complicated. There are the checks and balances there, and you can't just walk in and just do what the heck you want. And that's the same thing Trump found out in 2016. You need all these guys to pass Senate confirmation, and that's Mitch McConnell. And we know Mitch McConnell is 100% part of the swamp. And that's why my message has always been this. If you want change, it's not going to come just because you voted for Donald Trump and he got elected. You got to start at the local level, at the state level, and it's a long, long marathon of seizing power bit by bit so that you can make change. Because you can get Trump in there, but if Congress is controlled by the Democrats, it's deadlocked. It's gridlock here. You get Trump in there, and Mitch McConnell runs the Senate for the swamp. He can't get anybody nominated, and nothing happens. So, in a lot of ways, a lot of cases here, Trump in 2016, he had limitations on what he could get done. Now, ironically enough, this is funny. There is one position that you do not need Senate confirmation, and what position is that? National Security Advisor. And what happened to Mr. Trump? He brought in Michael Flynn, and he lasted, 10 days before the FBI ensnared him in a trap to get him out of there. So one person that didn't require Senate confirmation, the deep state pulled their little tactics here, had him investigated or had the FBI talk to Flynn off the record, and then came back later and said he was lying and charged him with a crime, making Flynn unable to stay in that position, and he resigned. So that's what the swamp will do when you bring somebody in that they really, really don't want there, because the National Security Advisor it's a big role and can have a big influence on the administration and the foreign policy and everything. So Trump had Flynn there, and they got him the hell out fast. And then Flynn was replaced by H.R. McMaster, who was a approved person by the swamp, and he was fine. They left him in there. So the deep state, the swamp, and the setup of our government prevents anybody from doing too much too fast. And Trump found that out the hard way when he was president. So for the people on the right, or the people who think he didn't do enough, there were limitations. And yes, he also did make mistakes. I 100% agree. And I would hope if he were reelected in 2025, he would go, okay, I got to do things a little differently here. Unfortunately, if Trump were reelected, or 2025, and Schumer was running the Senate, same problem. Who can he get past Chuck Schumer? I mean, Mitch McConnell's bad enough, but Chuck Schumer, that scumbag, you're not getting anybody past, and you're going to be, it's a buzzsaw, and that's how our government's set up, for the good or for the bad. That's the way it is, and quite frankly, I'm okay with that, because you don't want any one person to have that much power. You do want those checks and balances, and it stinks when your guy's there. It's annoying as hell, but at the same time, when your guy is not there, and you have a Democrat president and a Republican Senate, it can be a good thing, because it slows that guy down. So it goes both ways, and that's just how our system is set up. So you had the great Trump on a curve there back in 2017, 2020. And again, hopefully in 2024, he does things differently and learns from that and doesn't make the same mistakes twice. So we'll just have to see if he gets the nomination and if he gets reelected. Of course, that is a long way off. And oh boy, there's so much happening with the indictments, with the Ukraine war. Who the hell knows what's going to happen, or who's going to be actually running for the Republican Party come November 2024. I would like it to be Trump, but it could be somebody else. We just don't know. We're a long way off. So we're in for quite a ride, quite an interesting next 16 months with everything that's going on. Crazy times, but here we are. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.